There were a lot of trades that went down at the 2019 deadline in Major League Baseball, and with only a few weeks left in the season, I think it's fair to start judging these trades for what impact they made in 2019. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to look at some of the more significant trades that happened at the 2019 trade deadline and tell you whether or not the trade ended up working out. Now, of course, trades with prospects, it's going to be hard to value whether or not the team that got those prospects got anything back, but we're really going to be focusing on the trades that had players that can make an impact this season. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it. That's the best way to show your support. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you enjoy the content. If you love baseball, this is the place to be. Make sure to hit that sub button. Remember to get in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think was the best trade of the deadline. Which one had the biggest impact thus far in the playoff outcome? If you want to continue the conversation about baseball, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at GiraffeNeckMarc. Links in the description. So let's start off with the first trade of really the deadline season. That was the Boston Red Sox acquiring Andrew Cashner from the Orioles. Now, the Red Sox gave over some prospects, but we're really going to be focusing on what Cashner has done for Boston this year. Well, he hasn't really done much. He actually pitched a lot better as a Baltimore Oriole than he did as a Boston Red Sox in 2019. He's made 6 starts, appeared in 18 games, 46 innings pitched. He has a 5.87 ERA, a whip at 1.587. While his strikeouts are up, he's giving up more hits, walking a lot more batters, and giving up more home runs. And as we know, this was kind of supposed to be the help that the Red Sox needed for that pitching staff, and clearly that hasn't worked out because the Red Sox are going to miss out on the playoffs in 2019. This trade was definitely a failure for the Red Sox. It just didn't work out. They did not get Nathan Eovaldi 2.0. The Cubs originally traded Mike Montgomery to the Royals in exchange for Martin Maldonado, and then they flipped him to the Astros for Tony Kemp. Tony Kemp's not playing a whole lot for the Cubs, and you can kind of understand why. In his 35 games, 63 at-bats, he's hitting 175 with a 217 on base, 254 slugging, and a 471 OPS. They didn't give up a whole lot either, so it's kind of a wash, but Tony Kemp not doing great. For the Minnesota Twins, what did they need at the deadline? They needed bullpen help. They needed pitching help. So they went out and got Sergio Romo for the Miami Marlins. Romo was having a solid year with the Marlins. You knew that when they signed him in the offseason, they had intentions of trading him, and he played well in the first half, which gave him some value. With the Twins in his 22 games thus far, he's been really good as well. 3.79 ERA in 19 innings pitched, a whip under 1 at .947. He's striking out batters at a higher rate. He's walking a whole lot less, giving up a few more home runs, and his hits are actually down as well. So overall, for the Twins bullpen who had been struggling, who needed a lot of arms, who needed help out there, I think Sergio Romo has been a great pickup for Minnesota. Tampa Bay Rays had a busy deadline, and they picked up a utility player similar to Ben Zobrist in the past, Eric Sogard. Sogard could play a variety of positions on the infield, and if you really want him to, you can throw him out in the outfield as well. Now, he's been playing mostly second base for the Rays since they got him, and he's done a fairly good job. 266 average, 328 on base, 404 slugging, 731 OPS. That doesn't match the numbers that he had in Toronto, but realistically, he's not an 800 OPS type player, so I think in the spots that you play him in, he's probably pretty decent. I'm not going to go ahead and say that this was a great trade by the Rays, but I'm also not going to say it's a bad one. Now, for the big move that surprised everyone in baseball, the New York Mets acquiring Marcus Stroman. Personally, been a little disappointed by Marcus Stroman. In the 8 games that he has pitched, I just feel like we haven't gotten the same Stroman we saw in Toronto, and when you look at his numbers, it does prove the point that he's not pitching as well as he was earlier in the season. In his 8 starts, 42 innings pitched, a 4.5 ERA with a whip at 1.667. That's really high. While his strikeouts are high, the thing that worries me the most though is that he's given up almost twice as many home runs, walking more batters, and giving up more hits. For a guy who's not really a strikeout pitcher, pitches to contact, gets a lot of ground balls, it's concerning to me to see him getting the walks higher and giving up more home runs when those are 2 things he's pretty good at limiting. We still have another year left of Stroman, so I'm not completely out on this guy yet. I expected a little bit more out of Stroman this year. He just hasn't lived up to what we thought he would be. So the Milwaukee Brewers, I give them a lot of crap every year for not going out and getting pitching. They didn't really go out and get pitching this year if you're talking about names, but they did acquire Jordan Lyles, who was terrible with Pittsburgh to start the year, and he's been fantastic with the Brewers. Go figure. 9 starts, 2.39 ERA, 1.102 whip. He's performing at the highest level he's ever pitched before. Strikeouts may be down, but he's walking less, giving up less home runs, and his hits are down a lot. While his FIP is a lot higher than his ERA is, so it might be a little deceiving, 4.44 FIP versus a 2.39 ERA. He's not giving up a lot of runs, and if that's because of his defense or the ballpark, it doesn't matter, it's still working. Jordan Lyles, go figure, has been a great pickup. Oh, the Philadelphia Phillies. How'd you fall for this trap? You traded with the New York Mets for Jason Vargas? You thought Jason Vargas would be the answer to your pitching problems? Oh, you fell for the trap, guys. Vargas had been pitching okay okay with the Mets, he still wasn't pitching good. He had an ERA at 4, and the Phillies bit. In his 9 starts thus far, he has not looked good. An ERA at 5.48, a whip at 1.489. He's striking out less batters, giving up more hits. If you are a Mets fan who watched Vargas pitch, you knew that the good performance we were getting out of him were just sheer luck. We've seen too much of him in the past where you go, yeah, he's just not a good pitcher, and for some reason the Phillies went, yeah, that's the guy we need to help this pitching rotation. With all the talent available on the market, you chose Jason Vargas. Thank you, Jason Vargas, for carrying out the plan and trying to sabotage the Phillies. The Atlanta Braves, they need a lot of bullpen help, so they went out and got some arms. The first one being Chris Martin of the Texas Rangers, who is having a career season out in Texas to start the season. With the Braves, on the other hand, it seems that he's gone back to his old ways. In the 17 games he's appeared in thus far, he has a 4.7 ERA. Despite having a whip at 1.043, his FIP is 1.91, while his ERA is 4.7. So it's a little difficult to figure out where he really stands here, but at the end of the day, 8 earned runs in 15 and a third innings, that's just a lot to give up. Need to see a little better out of Chris Martin for the Braves. We're almost at the deadline day here, and we have the Reds, Indians, and Padres making a huge trade. Start off with the Reds because they only got one player back, and that was Trevor Bauer. Bauer hasn't really been great for the Reds. Now, this wasn't a move to help them in 2019. This was really a 2020 move because they will have control over Trevor Bauer until that season, and you add him with Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray to that rotation, it'll really help out in 2020. 9 starts, a 6.39 ERA, a whip at 1.419, giving up a lot more hits, giving up a lot more home runs, which could be expected playing in Cincinnati. It is a hitter's ballpark, but his walks are down and his strikeouts are up, so that's a positive. I think Trevor Bauer is a good pitcher. I think it's a little too early to judge this one, but if we're strictly going off 2019, he hasn't really helped the Reds out very much. He hasn't looked great, but I think in 2020 it'll probably pay off. And then you have the Indians, who grabbed a lot of players. First one we're going to talk about is Yasiel Puig. Puig's been a little disappointing in Cleveland. He was starting to heat up with the Reds right around the deadline. He had 22 homers in the first half, and then he went to Cleveland and he's kind of just gone ice cold with the power. A 390 slugging percentage while there, 2 home runs and 10 doubles in 39 games. He's hitting 267 with a 353 on base, 390 slugging, and a 744 OPS. That's just simply not cutting it, especially for a player that's a rental. When you gave up a starting pitcher that could help you right now, Yasiel Puig's having pretty much no impact on the field. They also got Franmil Reyes, who, as we know, had some crazy power, hitting 27 homers with the Padres in 99 games. And similar to Puig with the Indians, his power seems to have been completely drained. Only 7 homers and 8 doubles in 42 games. A slugging percentage at 423, which isn't bad, but it's also not good. The power hitting outfielders they got are just really not turning out well for them. For the Washington Nationals, they went out and acquired a lot of bullpen pieces at the deadline because, let's be honest, their bullpen was pretty horrible. First one being Daniel Hudson, and let me tell you, he's been a huge impact to that bullpen. ERA at 2.25, whip at 1.063. He's giving that bullpen some consistency to get them to Sean Doolittle, to get them to those later innings of the game when they have a lead, because some of the guys they were throwing out there before the deadline, it was just almost automatic loss. They couldn't throw strikes. They're giving up hits, home runs. Now, while Hudson has high home run numbers as a National, his walks are down a ton, and when you have a whip hovering right around 1, you're doing something right. Another reliever they picked up was Hunter Strickland from Seattle. Didn't have a great start to the season with the Mariners, and he's been okay with the Nationals. An ERA at 4.76, whip at 1.47. Not really the kind of pitcher or the numbers that you want to see. The only reason I say it's okay is because somehow that's still better than the guys that they had previously in the bullpen, but Hunter Strickland's definitely not performing like they had hoped. And then the last pitcher that they picked up out of the bullpen was Roenis Elias. He's only appeared in 4 games. He's actually currently hurt with a hamstring strain. Doesn't seem like it really matters because in those 4 games, he just didn't pitch well. 9 ERA, whip at 2. He was getting absolutely shelled. So overall for the Nationals bullpen haul, it's probably good because they did improve, but it could have been better because Strickland and Elias just haven't been good. The Brewers made another trade to go get some more pitching help. This time they went for the bullpen and they got Drew Pomeranz and Ray Black. Go figure, Pomeranz, who I'm not a huge fan of pitching wise, has actually been really good for the Brewers. 19 appearances, 19 innings pitched, 2.79 ERA, whip at 1.138. He's been really solid. His strikeouts are at a career high per 9 innings. His walks are down, home runs are down, hits are down. So props to Milwaukee, man. I did not like their deadline, but a lot of these moves they made have ended up to work out. The Diamondbacks were pretty active during the trade deadline as well. Of course, we know they traded Zack Greinke, but we'll address that in a little bit. But they did get some pitching help as well. They added Zack Gallen from the Miami Marlins in exchange for Jazz Chisholm. Zack Gallen, I really like as a pitcher. I think he's got great stuff. I think he knows how to pitch and is only going to get better. And for a team that really doesn't have any trouble scoring runs, I think Gallen was a great addition to that rotation to help out with the pitching side. So far in his 8 starts with Miami, Zack Gallen's done really well. 2.89 ERA, 1.26 whip, strikes out a ton of batters, 10.9 strikeouts per 9. His walks are a little bit high, but you kind of understand that with a young pitcher. Home runs aren't crazy high, only 1 per 9 innings. I think Zack Gallen was a fantastic pickup by the Diamondbacks. One of the more underrated moves that they've made, kind of like the Tyler Glasnow trade with the Rays last year. Keep an eye out for Gallen next year. The Tampa Bay Rays made an in-state trade with the Miami Marlins. They grabbed Trevor Richard and Nick Anderson to help out with that bullpen. Of course, we know how much they rely on that. Trevor Richards in 6 appearances, 3 starts has been solid, 2.11 ERA, 1.125 whip. His per nines are pretty similar across the board as they were in Miami, except he's cut down on the walks a lot, 1.7 walks per nine as opposed to 4.1. So I think Trevor Richards was definitely been a successful pickup. And when you look at Nick Anderson's numbers, even better. 17 appearances, 1.65 ERA, and are you ready for this whip? Because it's silly, a 0.49 whip. Under one's nasty, under 0.5 doesn't even make sense. He's given up 8 hits in 16 innings, no walks, struck out 32 batters to give him a 17.6 K per nine. Fantastic pickup. Phillies made another move at the deadline, grabbing outfielder Corey Dickerson from the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is a move that I predicted to happen, and of course it did. I think it's been a pretty solid move for them. In his 34 games thus far, he has 8 homers, 10 doubles, 2 triples, and 34 RBIs, hitting .293 with a .307 on base, .579 slugging, and an .886 OPS. I'm a big fan of Corey Dickerson. I think he's just a very professional outfielder, hits the ball well, can play defense out there. For the Phillies, who had struggled with consistency in the outfield due to injuries and suspensions, he added a little more stability. And while they haven't necessarily played to playoff levels just yet, I thought Corey Dickerson was the right player to try to get to that level. But Dickerson's done a good job for Philadelphia thus far, so I think that was a good trade. So I'd mentioned how the Cincinnati Reds brought in a pitcher. They also sent one out, and that was Tanner Roark to the Oakland A's. A's always need pitching help, and they seem to have gotten a good player in Tanner Roark. In his 8 starts thus far, Roark is 4-1 with a 3.83 ERA and a whip at 1.234, which is pretty much what his career averages are across the board. Striking out more batters, which is great. His walks are down, which is great. Few more home runs, a few more hits, but overall he's done a really solid job for the Oakland A's and has been a huge part of their push for the playoffs and why they're pretty much in the hunt for the AL wildcard. Now to talk about what is probably the second best trade of the deadline, the Chicago Cubs acquiring Nick Castellanos from the Tigers. Huge W. I mean, I'm just going to start off by saying absolutely fantastic trade. I predicted he was going to go to the Cubs. I was telling you how good he was going to be when they acquired him, and boy was I right. In his 43 games that he's played for the Cubs, he's pretty much already having a better season than the 100 games he had with the Tigers. 15 homers, 18 doubles, 35 RBIs, hitting .339 with a .368 on base, .689 slugging, and an OPS over 1,000. I told you, Castellanos just needed to get away from Detroit. He needed to get into a better hitter park because Detroit, Comerica, that's just where hitters go to die. Castellanos is going off. A huge reason why the Cubs are pushing for a wild card spot. The Braves also went out and grabbed some more relief help, grabbing Shane Green and Mark Melancon. As for Shane Green, we know how nasty he was with the Tigers to start off the year, and after a rough start with the Braves, he started to calm down and become a better pitcher again. 22 appearances, he has a 3.98 ERA with a whip at 1.23. Strikeouts are down and his hits are up, but his walks are also down and home runs are down. So I think once you start to kind of even out that terrible start he had with the Braves, you're going to see he's going to be a solid reliever. He's going to help them out in the playoffs without a doubt. And then as for grabbing Melancon from the Giants, a little bit of a rougher situation. 18 appearances, 5.17 ERA, a whip at 1.34. He's given up a lot of hits, so it seems like he's just kind of pitching into bad luck because his FIP is 1.88. So the numbers might be a little bit deceiving here, but similar to Shane Green, they have control over him until 2021. And I think that having a guy like Mark Melancon who has that playoff experience, who has closer experience, it's important for the Atlanta Braves going down the stretch and pushing into the playoffs. Melancon was a good pickup overall. And then the blockbuster trade that happened pretty much after the deadline had ended, we got Zack Greinke going to the Astros. Now the Diamondbacks got a lot of young players in this trade, but none of them have really made an impact just yet, so can't really speak on that. But we're going to talk about Zack Greinke as an Astro, which shocker, right? He's been great. 8 starts, 3.1 ERA, whip at 1.15. He's given up a few more hits, striking out a few less, but you add Zack Greinke to that Astros team who already has Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole, who are definitely going to finish 1 and 2 in the American League Cy Young voting. How do you beat this team in a 5-game series when you have to go through those first 3? I just don't know how any team beats them with that pitching. It's unbelievable. 1, 2, 3. Definitely the best move of the trade deadline. It didn't save the season maybe like the Cubs and Castellanos did, but this is a huge impact move that's going to have immediate World Series implications. Huge move, big A+. Big winner. So we took a look back at the trade deadline moves from 2019. We saw how they turned out thus far. A lot of winners, some losers, but overall, I don't think any teams really got scammed or screwed over or anything like that. So I would say the trade deadline was a success for most teams, unless you trade for Jason Vargas. What? I would love to know what you guys think is the best move or how the moves have played out thus far for 2019 down in the comment section below. Let me know what you have to say and think. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you enjoy the content. If you love baseball, click that sub button, join the team. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it and want to see more of this kind of content. And we're going to wrap up today's video just like that. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You know the drill. YouTube recommends you watch this video right here, as well as this is my most recent upload. So click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.